Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Today I've borrowed this 2021 Honda Civic Sport from my friends at Holmes Honda here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And we're going to try and answer the question, should you buy a 2021 Honda Civic or wait for a 2022? I'll put some pictures up on the screen of what the 22 model is going to look like, and hopefully we'll have one here on the Vehicle Visionary YouTube channel in the very near future. Now, I wanted to share some interesting information that you might not know about concerning the history of the Civic, which of course, it's been around since 1972, but if you were ever on, say, Jeopardy, and you were given a question along these lines, this generation of the Honda Civic was considered technically to be a small mid-size sedan. Now, that would be the 10th generation, would be the answer. And why is that? Well, according to EPA guidelines, if a car has an interior space of 110 to 119.9, not 119.8, not 119 or less, but 119.9 cubic feet, it is considered a mid-size sedan. So kind of an interesting little bit of information about the Civic that you might not have known about until you clicked on this video. And as is common, I'll give you a partial list of the safety features that you can expect to find on the sport trim level. That includes Honda Sensing, so there's a lot of good safety features, driving aids to keep driver and passenger safe while driving down the road in the Civic Sport, which of course is obviously going to have a very sporty, racy look, and even though it's not ultra powerful, it does handle very well. We'll talk about what's under the hood and all those numbers shortly. This is a platinum white exterior color with black interior. We'll give a good tour of that shortly and show you the sportiness that's found there too. But I like the contrasting of the platinum white. You've got the black here with the grille, and of course, you've got the bezels around the fog lights here on the lower portion of the bumper. Plenty of air is going to get in for that engine to be able to breathe and handle everything it needs going down the road. And overall, the lines on this generation of the Civic, as you look at the lines on the hood and just the overall front end design, I must say, really fit a sport trim level. But obviously one of the most important things that you probably want to know about is what's under the hood. And of course, I've got a question I'm going to ask as we talk about that I definitely want your feedback on down in the comments section. All right guys, now that we've opened the hood, here's what you've got on this model. The 1.5 liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder. 180 horsepower, 177 pound-feet of torque, estimated gas mileage, 29 miles per gallon city, 35 out on the highway. So even though you may not have an overload of horsepower, you do make up for that with some really solid gas mileage numbers. Although it is a highly customizable engine, you can mod this out and make quite a bit of horsepower. In fact, we actually did a video with one of the salesmen who owns a similar model to this one at a local shop, and we found out what kind of numbers he was putting out with the mods and upgrades. I'll try and remember to link that down in the description of the video if you want to see that. And of course, the question that I wanted to present to you, this does, of course, have that single-speed CVT transmission. Do you like that, or would you like to see a conventional automatic? Which do you prefer? And tell me why you answered as you did. And the sporty look continues onto the side, the exterior here of the Civic, with some very stylish lines. That sporty look just flows onto the side quite well. I like that black lower door sill. It really stands out with this platinum white exterior color. Of course, you're going to have plenty of black trim, not only around these side view mirrors, but of course around those windows. And since I'm asked this question quite often, in case anybody wants to know, are there turn signal indicators built into the mirrors? Not on the sport trim level, but just so you know, there's your answer. 18-inch alloy wheels. Those are going to be wrapped in 235/40 tire size. And of course, you're going to have the little button right here that allows you to easily lock and or unlock the interior of the vehicle. And as we get to the back here, I just really have to say, I'm very impressed with just the overall look of the rear of this hatchback model. You've got the spoiler up here on the top, but not only that, but also another spoiler down here on the lower portion of the rear area of the vehicle. And both just flow together quite well, and really, again, giving that overall racy appearance to the Civic. Very nice looking tail lights back here. And of course, before we move on to talking about cargo space, here is a quick exhaust clip of what that 1.5 liter sounds like. As I open the rear hatch on this Civic, I'll put the cargo information numbers on the screen. And of course, you can maximize that by lowering these rear seats. And that's one good thing about these hatchback models. They're not shy on cargo space. So you've got quite a bit of flexibility there. You've also got the built-in cover, cargo cover right there. You've also got a little cover right here that you can put in place. Retractable right there if you want to use that. Now, one thing that I think is really noteworthy information here, because I know a lot of people have been sharing in the comments section of some of my other videos, you're not a fan of the vehicles coming with a tire repair kit. And I think over the course of time, you're going to see that start to change and go away, just because I know people are not a big fan of such a thing. Good news, when you look under the floor here in the rear cargo area, no tire repair kit. There is a spare tire. All the tools you need to change that are found right there. So definitely good news, depending on what your preference is, of course. Okay guys, as we hop into the interior here, not a whole lot to report here about the back seat. No dual air conditioning vents, not even a USB port back here, but that's not a big deal. You've got plenty of airflow coming from the front in a smaller interior like this. But the thing that I definitely like here, let me just sit straight up here, is that even though, yeah, I've got about an inch or so, inch and a half above my head here, between my head and the roof, but I have plenty of space here. I could be very comfortable back here and really get quite comfortable as far as on a long trip or something like that if I was riding in the back seat back here. When you look at these Civics from the outside, you wouldn't expect this much space to be back here, but it actually is quite plentiful and quite comfortable. Okay guys, let's talk about the front seat. And the thing about it, this car is on the market for sale for less than $26,000. And in this day and age, that's a really good price for what you get here. All the technology, all the features and functionality, including push button start. You don't have a key or anything like that. You got the remote, but pretty simple and pretty easy. But yet, I like the amount of technology that comes for this particular price point. I'll turn the air down just a little bit so we don't cause any problems with the audio. And like I said, that sporty look with the trim on these seats continues into the front seat and give you a good look of that, and just some of the overall trim of the interior here in the front seat. Of course, you've got all your controls for your power locks, power door mirrors, door bins, pretty decent size for a smaller vehicle like this. And the instrument cluster, you really don't have any changes at all for 2021 with the Civic. So what you had in 20, you're gonna have in 21, but the instrument cluster still has very nice, relevant looking graphics. Definitely not really falling behind the times, at least in my personal opinion. So you may have varying opinions on that. A leather wrapped steering wheel here with your typical steering wheel mounted controls. Got those shifter paddles there as well. So you can drive in sport mode, and even though you're not really shifting a transmission, you do have shifter paddles. So kind of an interesting situation on how that works as far as having that single speed CVT, but still you can kind of feel a little more engaged in the driving experience. If you want to shift all the way back, you've got drive, and of course you've got S for sport mode if you want to take advantage of that. And as far as functionality here, on the left hand side you've got the turn signal stalk that I hope you use when you're driving. If you don't know for sure how to do that, when you push up on that, you hear that clicking sound. I pushed up on it, you got an arrow pointing to the right. That means I'm turning right or changing lanes to the right. Or if you're turning left or changing lanes to the left, you push it in the down position. Just a quick little tutorial in case you always wondered what that was for. And on the right hand side, the controls for your windshield wipers, for running the windshield washer fluid and all that good stuff. push button start, like I said right there. There's the button for that. And one thing we learned with the changes to the 2021 Honda Ridgeline is that people really like to have a knob right here, just as you do in the Civic, for turning the radio off and on and controlling or adjusting the volume. Kind of an interesting thing, but I guess I can see how that might be something people want. Again, that's kind of a level of engagement, feeling more involved, I guess you could say. And Honda's infotainment system here in the Civic, very nice, very easy to use. Again, looking very modern. You can go into settings and make a lot of changes. You also have the multi-view rear view camera. I'll give you a few shots of what that looks like when you go into reverse. And of course, single zone climate control. Again, a smaller interior, and at this price point, probably not going to expect to get dual zone climate control, but you really don't need it in an interior of this size, but you can still have your controls here for turning that off and on, all the different features and functionality there. And you do have a pass-through right here with some connectivity within and other areas up here as well. And of course, if you want to drive in econ mode, the button is there. Power parking brake and brake hold mode, and kind of an interesting multitasker of sorts here. You've got two drink holders here behind the shifter, and if you push those back, you have a third drink holder down there, just a much larger size. So if you've got one of those big gulps or a giant cup of coffee that you picked up on the way to work in the morning, well, that's what that's for. And also, you've got the lid for the console right here that kind of doubles as an armrest. I've had people tell me that if they're taking off down the road, that can actually go back just like that. I haven't had that happen yet. Maybe I should try that out today if I can think about it during the test drive. As far as space goes in there, well, you'd have to stack the shirts just right, but I bet you could fit, 3 or 4, maybe 5 Vehicle Visionary t-shirts down inside the console. But obviously, my favorite part of reviewing these vehicles is the test drive. Let's hop out on the road and see how the Civic Sport handles. Okay guys, we're gonna hop out on the road here for a quick test drive. One thing I forgot to mention earlier during our interior tour is the fact that this steering wheel is fully adjustable. It's manually adjustable. There's a lever underneath you just pull out, and it allows you to adjust the steering wheel, tilt or telescopically, whichever direction you want to, or both, just so that you're comfortable. And of course, you don't have power seats here, but they are adjustable for the driver and the passenger. Now, as I'm cruising down the road here, I must say, I've driven plenty of these Civic Sports in the past, but I always enjoy how well they handle. The steering is nice and tight. I like the feel of the steering wheel and just the overall fact that you have very little play in it. It's not completely sports car-like, but it's very close. There's very little play in either direction, but overall, it just, again, everything engineered here really gives that sporty feel to the Civic. And so let's just drop into sport mode here. Have a little fun cruising through the corner. Good handling characteristics. Everything is nice and responsive. And the thing I like here as I get on the brakes, I'm thinking about the fact that I don't want to dive on the brake real hard right here, but I can just tell the brake pedal follows your foot. Now, that might sound kind of funny to say that. What exactly do I mean by that? If you lightly press on the brake pedal, you're going to get light braking. The harder you press, the harder the brakes are going to work. It's not a situation where you have to adjust yourself and really pay attention to what you're doing because you have an overly sensitive brake pedal. So just one of those things to think about. Now, let's see here. I'm going to try a quick little experiment, and I apologize that you can't see it. Okay, we'd probably have to have a whole lot more horsepower, but what I basically just did, accelerating right there, I had somebody comment on one of my Honda videos that had a console just like what we have here, where you can adjust the lid back and forth, and they said the bad thing about that is that when you accelerate, that if you have it in the forward position, that it will automatically move back when you accelerate, basically because of the weight of your arm being on it, basically. Now, it didn't even try and budge. Maybe over the course of time that can happen, but I have to work really hard. I have to give it intentional effort to get it to move. So Tell me what your experiences have been in that respect. Overall, I really like the handling of the Civic. It's just one of those things where I'm driving a little faster than I probably should be. It's hard not to. Even being lower to the ground, the ride is comfortable. It's pretty smooth. You don't really feel like you're going as fast as you are, so you kind of have to pay attention to that. But I'm just overly impressed here. But I am interested to see what we have coming with the handling characteristics of the 2022 model and what the differences might be, if there are any. It'll be very interesting to see. I know obviously the biggest thing that I've seen so far, obviously I haven't driven one, is the fact that there are cosmetic changes, and there's others besides that. But overall, if you're looking to go ahead and buy a 2021 model, you're definitely not going to be disappointed. A very reliable model. If you're looking for really solid gas mileage, but yet something that has enough horsepower and just the overall handling characteristics for when you want to drive spiritedly and have a little bit of fun, well, obviously, this is going to do the job for you, and probably a little bit more. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. Now, based on what you've seen, I know we couldn't really do a really good comparison between the 21 and the 22 Civics, but what are you gonna do? Are you gonna buy a 21 or wait for a 22? Maybe we'll be able to compare the two side by side here in the very near future. We'll see when the first 22 models show up at Holmes Honda, which, by the way, I gotta say thanks to my friends at the dealership for loaning me this model for the day, and of course all of you for being kind enough to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye-bye.